What's going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today when I talk to you about Lucid, I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week and where I see things going price-wise. Before I get into any of that, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. With that, let's get right to it. So this upcoming week, everyone and their dog is going to be talking on interest rates. So on Wednesday, March the 20th, the Fed's going to be making an interest rate decision. I think it's a fair assumption that nobody's really assuming that there's going to be any rate hikes or cuts. But what Powell is going to say is going to dictate most likely what happens in the next couple of weeks, whether he's hawkish, which I think there's a fair assumption that he might be, especially the Feds were not anticipating the February data, so CPI, PPI, and plus a lot of retail data to be negative. So of course, I think that might really affect his tone, which in turn will really affect the broader market because the market has been hoping and praying for lower rates sooner rather than later. And I think originally there was forecasted to be around 4 rate cuts. Well, I think originally it was 6, but now it's 4 and possibly even 2 rate cuts this year. It is all over the place. And so a lot of growth stocks is very much heavily reliant on that. So Lucid could stand to benefit depending on what is said afterwards. But like I said, in my opinion, not meaning to be bearish or anything, but I feel like Powell might come into this meeting a little bit more negative. Specific to Lucid though, there isn't really anything crazy to write home about. So there's this. So between March the 13th and the 23rd, the Gravity is going to be at the 𝗪𝗓𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧 studio in Miami. So pretty cool stuff. Again, is it a reason to buy Lucid? Not so much. And as I've said over the last couple of videos, that's one thing that's been really plaguing Lucid is just their lack of catalysts. Because right now, like if I asked a lot of individuals, like what is your reason to buy right now, like Monday? Is there any reason that you need to jump all over Lucid on Monday? Most people would just say no. And of course, I did recently have Lucid. I had a nice chat with him over the weekend. So for those of you that have been in Lucid since maybe 2021, early 2022, you might actually remember him. So he's very big on Twitter, and I think he was transitioning to YouTube, but he's a very good example of a long investor because he got in and he knew what he was dealing with. Lucid, obviously very volatile stock. And even at that time, it started to have some signs of just things weren't really going right operationally. But when he invested for the long term. So of course, a lot of my videos, such as even today's one, is short-term minded. So take that with a grain of salt, of course. But when it comes down to this upcoming week, dependent on what is coming from this, so again, the Fed interest rate decisions, shorts will jump all over that if it is negative. So surprisingly though, on Friday, shorts did return 1.13 million shares, kind of validating the green day. So that's kind of a good thing. 26.49% of the free float is being shorted. That works out to be 233.05 million shares overall are being shorted, and cost of borrow average is 20.49%. So surprisingly, shorts have kind of bounced off and started to return quite a lot of shares. And I think the high was almost like 31%, something very crazy high. So I'm not really sure why they are returning and what prompted all that. But again, I'm not really going to complain. Abnormally on Friday, though, you do see a lot of optimism. So 72% of all the options being done on Friday were bullish. So starting off on Monday, I feel like a lot of this optimism associated to Lucid's technicals and just the options, shorts closing out some of the positions will really help it on Monday. But obviously, Tuesday will roll around. A lot of people will start to get in their head about the interest rate decisions, probably last minute jitters and fear. And then once again, dependent on what comes from that, that'll probably dictate what happens for the rest of the week. So all in all, I do feel that this upcoming week, based on the technicals, I'll kind of go over some support and resistance points first. But with it at $2.70, it is trading between this S3 and this S2. So 233 is going to be a very strong support. And right now it is sitting right below a strong resistance level of $2.72. So going into this upcoming week, those are some points to watch for. So I feel like on Monday, it will have enough to break above this, but not necessarily to break above this S1 naturally, unless, again, dependent on what comes from Wednesday, that might be able to push it higher back into the threes, but it most likely will trade between this S2 and this S1 leading up to that decision rate. And aside from all of that though, I do feel that because of the decision rate, it will actually pull it back down into this S3 and this S2. Nothing really to justify it trending below that. So in my opinion, I do feel it's going to be trading between that $2.50 range to possibly the $2.72. So overall, this week will be relatively quiet unless Lucid does come out with some good pieces of news, maybe associated to the gravity or whatever the hell they change it to, because looking on Stochastic, you do see it very oversold. So once again, if there's a good piece of news that could really help it, cause some value investors to really get in on Lucid, so that might actually stand to benefit. But the technicals are still somewhat bearish. Friday was a little bit of a hope, so kind of breaking that trend. So overall, that's kind of a good thing. But like Lucid just needs to do something to really save that. Of course, there's a lot of things outside of their control, such as interest rates, but they can still put out some pretty good news. And I feel like Lucid has actually had some pretty good accomplishments. But if you go on anything, Lucid, like the last news that came out associated to Lucid that they put out was this. So February the 15th, and that's just about the price adjustments. Like, other than that, we have not had any official news. They are kind of active somewhat on Twitter and other social medias, but nothing really crazy. It's just more, I guess, marketing and whatever else. So whoever has taken over their marketing is very much probably the younger generation focused on social medias rather than their website, because their website is very lackluster. And I've noticed that even, for instance, interviews, they aren't even putting that on there for upcoming events. So I think that they are lagging in that aspect, but still, as what Lucidverse did say, it's kind of a newer company, it's a growing company, it's going to have some issues such as this. So obviously when I'm complaining and bitching essentially on these videos, it is just so Lucid can improve. I still really like it, this is why I cover it, still own the shares, I'm very good at averaging down and doing all the options aspects and stuff like that. But when it comes down to Lucid, the lower the price goes, the less advantageous options do get. So that's something that's kind of crappy right now. But all in all, let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Where do you think that things are going to go? Do you think, for instance, it's going to trend down to the low 2s, or do you think it is going to break above the 3s for this upcoming week? What's your thoughts? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. One final thing, take advantage of this promo. Simply sign up for an account with Moomoo, throw $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000, so take advantage of this. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.